we're back in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, with Chris Wallace, who continues the questioning. Chris?
Thank you, Britt. Governor Romney, you have been pushing the theme of change recently. But after John McCain beat you in New Hampshire and Hillary Clinton beat Barack Obama, is it just possible that voters want Washington experience more than they want change?
Nope. I've had the chance to do almost 200 town meetings across the country. I've listened to people from, well, in a restaurant here called Lizard's Thicket to places all over the country. And I keep hearing the same thing, which is that Washington is broken, that Washington has made promises to America it has not kept, and it seems incapable of dealing with the challenges that we face globally and here at home. I hear that people say they think we deserve health care for all our citizens, but not government health care, and that hasn't been done. They say we ought to be able to get a reduction in the burden on the middle class, and that hasn't been done. They say we ought to solve the immigration problem in this country, protecting legal immigration but ending illegal immigration. It hasn't been done. They say there's too much pork barrel spending and earmarking in Washington. That hasn't stopped. And so the same people year after year make these promises and then go to Washington and nothing happens. And so I'm convinced that you're going to see that people say across this country that if you send the same people back to Washington just to sit in different chairs, nothing will happen. My whole life has been about bringing change to things I've touched. I was in the business world for 25 years and tried to bring change. Sometimes I did positively, not always, but I learned from that experience. Went to the Olympics and turned those games around with the help of a terrific team of people. Went to the state of Massachusetts when revenues were falling, when jobs were falling, helped turn that around. I know how to bring change, and I will change Washington. I will take it apart and put it back together, simpler, smaller, smarter. But I will bring change, and I will honor the promises that the American people have heard from me and from others who care about Republican principles.
Senator McCain, Governor Romney was more polite tonight than he sometimes is on the campaign trail. In fact, recently he said there's no way John McCain can change Washington. He is Washington. Given the fact that you have been in Congress for a quarter of a century, are you part of the solution, sir, or are you part of the problem?
Obvious. I think my answer is pretty obvious. I've been one of those involved in one of the most important changes that we could have ever made, and that is reverse a losing strategy in Iraq, which would have entailed the loss of so much sacrifice of American treasure. And now we have a new strategy, and we are succeeding. If we'd have done what the Democrats wanted to do 6 months ago, Al-Qaeda would be trumpeting to the world that they beat us. I'll never let that happen. We'll never surrender. I brought about change in spending practices. The chairman of the Appropriations Committee called me the sheriff. I've saved $6 billion on a deal for an Air Force tanker that was a terrible ripoff of the taxpayers, which would have happened if it hadn't been for me. Ask Jack Abramoff if I'm an insider in Washington. You probably have to go during visiting hours in the prison. And he'll tell you, and his lobbyist cronies, of the change I made there. And also, I think it's important to know that I have never asked for or received a pork barrel project or earmark for my state. But I've known how to change things, and we've changed a lot of things, and we will change more things. And if I can change the things that I was able to as a senator, I'm looking forward to the changes that I can make when I'm the President of the United States.
Governor Huckabee, in your 10 years running Arkansas, you raised taxes. They were higher at the end of your 10 years than they were at the beginning by hundreds of millions of dollars, and you increased the size of government. Is that your idea of change, to be a big government Republican president?
My idea of government is to get the job done and make sure that you balance your budget, that you respond to the needs of your people. I don't think the federal government needs any more money. That's why I've signed a pledge that I would not raise taxes as president. You brought up something about what I raised. Let me tell you what I raised, Chris. I raised hope. I raised expectation of the kids in my state who didn't have a decent education, and our courts ordered us to put more money into it. And rather than just act about my political future, I acted about the future of those kids. And this week, just in fact yesterday, America Kids Count came and said that our schools were now the 8th best in the nation, which is a long way from 49th. We raised what we hoped those kids would have. Those kids in the Delta who had little access to health care that was affordable, even accessible. Roads were horrible. I took on the worst road system in the country, according to Truckers Magazine. When I left, they said it was the most improved road system in the country. We had no bridges falling down in Arkansas. We also improved our natural resources and environment so that every kid could go hunting and fishing and not have to be a part of an expensive club. I cut taxes. I managed government. I raised the quality of life by making sure that education and health and highways were accessible to every kid in that state.
Senator Thompson, are you persuaded by the kind of change that Governor Huckabee is offering, and do you have a better alternative, sir?
Well, first of all, I note the governor is pointing out that he signed the tax pledge. Earlier this year on Tim Russert's show on another network, he said it'd be a dangerous thing to make a tax pledge because you couldn't foresee what was going to happen in the future. Well, what happened in the future was that later on that year, when the pressure got building, he signed the tax pledge. No, I don't think so. I like to think of my own record. I pointed out several points of the governor's record and what he has done and what he has said. But we were able to go to Washington in 1995, and we passed 5 major tax bills. We passed welfare reform. We passed a balanced budget for 4 years in a row. We were able to do some headway, make some good with President Clinton, even with regard to sound conservative judges, and I compiled a 100% pro-life voting record during that time, and that's why the National Right to Life folks and the South Carolina Right to Life folks have endorsed me in my candidacy here. So I like to feel like we did do some good. I certainly didn't do it single-handedly, but yeah, you can be a part of something good in Congress if you work hard, and the voters respond to your conservative message. We took a sound conservative message to the American people at that time. The respect for the rule of law, a market economy, and a nation that doesn't tax and spend you to death, and a nation where a country boy from Tennessee or a country girl from South Carolina can grow up, and if they abide by the rules, expect to achieve the American dream. That's what we presented. They responded to us, and we were able to do some good things then. As chief executive, as president of this country, we could do a lot more good things, and that's why I'm running for president.
Senator, Governor Huckabee, you got kind of a glancing blow there. Would you like to respond for 30 seconds?
Well, certainly I would. Senator Thompson, I appreciate you and the other members of Congress passing welfare reform, but it was up to the governors to make it work. And as a governor, we made it work in my state and took half the people off welfare and got them into jobs. During my tenure, we had the lowest unemployment records in the history of our state, and we created a record number of jobs. And jobs